Okay then, guys, we'll get started on this session. There's only a few of us in this session, so in a minute, I think we will, once we go through the first few bits, we've got just some questions that were sent in from you guys and a few others. If that takes half an hour, it takes half an hour. If it's a bit shorter than that, then that's absolutely fine, and we can extend the lunch break. This is obviously the Penwith cluster breakout. If anyone's clicked on the wrong room or anything, you can always click out and find the form and go back into a different room for that. At the moment, obviously, we've started recording. It's like I said, this session shouldn't last any more than 30 minutes. If you don't want to, or you can't talk because you're in school and your microphone's on, and you want to just put your questions or answers to any of the questions in the chat, then we will keep an eye on that as well. Microphones are muted at the moment, but once we work through the questions, if people want to answer those questions, it's very much a forum for you guys and a chance to talk through current practice and examples of things that you guys are doing currently to overcome any of the challenges from that as well. So these are the questions that we've received in. I know some of these from the first panel that we had a minute ago that people have sent in as well. So we will just very much work through this. The first question there was extracurricular. Who was doing what now? Was anyone doing extracurricular before the second lockdown? And if anyone has any specific guidance from the SLT. Now, like I said, there's only sort of 6 of us, half a dozen of us in this room at the moment. So if people want to, unmute themselves, answer that question, if they've got anything particular they want to say on that topic.
Hey guys, Neil, you know that we were already doing after school clubs, so I'm at Humphrey Davy. This week we've decided now to stop after much discussion around it, just purely for the fact that we were a bit unsure. We didn't know what we were meant to be doing, whether we should continue, but we've made the decision to stop. Whether that is right or wrong, I don't know. But I think we were just so unsure, we thought, actually, let's just stop it and see what happens after this next 4 weeks.
Were you, did you hear from Jane a minute ago? I think they said the same sort of thing, it's advised, necessarily probably not to have extracurricular unless it's a provision in place to support families and things anyway. So it kind of, I don't think there's
we were sort of saying that a lot of our kids don't come to clubs for that provision because it's secondary. They're not necessarily needing that the place to stay after school. Then we discussed, do we keep 7 and 8s on? But then we thought, well, actually, if we're stopping some, then why would we then keep others on? And I know, Matt, you'll agree with me with this, but in terms of logistics of then having to clean, wash, dry another 3 sets of bibs in the evening. I want to cry at how much washing we're doing at the moment. But yeah, we have to take into consideration that as well, because there's only so much we can do.
Yeah. And I know at Mounts Bay they were going to start, clubs on Monday, and obviously that then got postponed with current guidance and stuff, whether and how to interpret it. I know on Twitter as well, the Youth Support Trust and AFP and stuff were obviously tweeting, to government saying, bit of clarity on that, and it's very loose wordings in the context of it all. So hopefully we get a bit further understanding of that moving forwards. The next one will hopefully apply to secondary and primary schools as well. Guidance. Are schools still using change rooms? Are they using different? Are the pupils coming in just changed? And it's just to give a bit of context to other people and what they're doing in the school, whether we're all doing the right thing and how it works for our school. And every school setting is obviously different. So how that's working for people as well.
I'll go if you like. Just to pick up on the previous question before I go on to this one, extracurricular clubs, we were umming and ahhing, and then when that notification came out, was it yesterday or the day before, it was really clear for us, and my SLT agreed that was it. No clubs, no fixtures. That was the end of that conversation straight away. that's where we are on that. In terms of changing rooms, we're still using changing rooms. We're utilising every space that we've got to, so the changing rooms are as crowded as is possible. In order to get around the cleaning, I was approached by our SLT with responsibility for health and safety, and he came up with a great solution, which we're very happy with, which we now use antibacterial, antiviral spray. And I just walk around the changing rooms, this is an aerosol, and I spray the area before the students come in. So there's no more wiping of things down or handing out of individual wipes. And our policy, our risk assessment is that the students sanitize their hands on the way in and on the way out. And I spray the room, giving a 1 minute break before a 30-second break, or it has to be, before the students then have to walk in. And that's what we're doing.
And I know Ian Veal couldn't be on now because he's teaching and stuff, but I know, at Mounts Bay, they went to changing after the conversations we had of heads of PE before October half term, and I know they change in area bubbles, so those changing rooms will be cleaned down at the end of the day, or the kids will change in the classroom that they're currently in, so it's no crossover, and everything should be cleaned down at the end of the day by the cleaners as normal. And I know that they incorporated changing before sessions and stuff, just to try and help around school with school uniform and the breakdown of things that are happening there, and kids still wearing the wrong tops, wrong clothing, and sort of challenging staff on that as well, which was a bit of a barrier. So that's why they kind of moved to the changing and try to get back a bit of normal routine with the PE. Next one applies to secondary schools here. I don't know if any primary delegates are in the room, whether they wanted to comment first of all on changing and stuff with their primary pupils. We've got a couple there, yeah. So people, primary pupils coming to school already in the PE kit. So that's good. So concerns over examinations, assessment. I think this was your question, was it, Matt?
Yeah.
OCR and completing of unit.
Yeah, it was really an open question for exam practical content. I'm looking at thinking particularly is or as well as theory. I'm still, for anyone else doing OCR National, we're still awaiting the guidance from them about whether they're going to reduce the amount of content. I know that OCR have put forward a proposal to Ofqual that instead of doing 4 units, schools may be able to reduce the submission of grades by 1 unit, so you may only have to do 3. I don't know if BTEC are going to do the same or even have done the same already.
Matt, we've just had some clarification this week. We are keeping all the units that we should have done. So they said they were going to drop 1 unit. That's not happening anymore. So we've got 2 years. Why even float that idea if they're not going to go with it?
No.
2 units to complete, which is fine. It's doable, but there's obviously a lot of learning that's been missed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we think we can get through it, certainly with the majority of the students. Some of them who didn't engage during lockdown, normal sorts of characters are going to struggle now to get all of the different individual tasks done. But
the other thing that we are slightly concerned about is that one of our units, Neil, I don't know whether you know anything more, you can suggest anything more. One of our units is the leadership unit. Now, we would normally get in primary school kids or do this with year 7s, and the kids will deliver this. But that's just not going to be able to happen. And I know this needs to come from BTEC, but we will be doing this unit after February half term, and I just can't see that being able to happen appropriately. And that's a concern for that unit, and we still haven't had any guidance on that unit either.
I don't know anything directly on that, but hopefully they'll come forward, and maybe it will be have to lead, within their own bubbles. I know that's not ideal, but that might be the only way that you can overcome that.
Is that does Veely do that unit? Do you know?
I think they're on leadership and stuff at the moment, I believe, but I don't know what they're doing in terms of the assessment part of it.
Yeah, if you get a chance, can you ask him what their thoughts on the practical side of it?
Yeah,
that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
You don't do GCSE, do you, Sarah?
No, just BTEC.
No, yeah, because we got similar sorts of questions around. I mean, we have got a GCSE class. Our oldest class is in year 10, but we're just looking forwards about how we're going to get all the practical assessment done, given that students. There's no school fixtures, so how do you get the videoing done? All the out of school activities, they're not allowed to do them at the moment. You've got no tennis players, badminton players, and basketballers and things. They're all supposed to be videoed playing proper match play situations. No netball clubs. I'm awaiting guidance for them to come out and suggest how on earth we're going to assess that with all of the restrictions. So that's a bit of a worry. Oh, but that's a real pain, Sarah, what you just said about BTEC, because if BTEC are doing all 4, you can bet your life that OCR will have to do as well.
Yeah, they said they were going to give us the update in half term. That didn't happen, and then it came out, I think, about 3 days ago.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm sure it'll be with you soon.
Yeah. OCR kept saying, yes, we know you're waiting. We've sent it to Ofqual. We're waiting to hear. We're waiting to hear. So I'm expecting that any moment now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least that's you've given me prep.
Sorry, I can't be a little bit more positive.
News. But there we go. I can't see the screen properly. I can see your screen, Neil, so I'm all good there. But who else is here? Is it me, Sarah, and Neil? Just the 3 of us.
Half a dozen primary delegates with us as well. A few questions, answers in chat as well when we talked about changing and stuff, and everyone's doing something different that kind of suits them. So moving on then, how schools have managed to compete in the school games. Primary delegates as well have had a bit of a offering from ourselves as SGOs as well. With that, we didn't move on to secondary at the moment with school game stuff, only the winter games, just because we know that those pupils are getting that activity, but also current demands and bubbles and things like that as well. But that could be something that we sort of scope out now that we know that clarity on fixtures and the next question with national cups and stuff coming up, that's going to be delayed, so there's not going to be that competition element. So if secondaries feel that they want to be part of that school games offering term by term, where we offer 2 or 3 activities and something you can incorporate into your lessons, maybe any feedback from the primary delegates of how they found some of those sports last term that we sort of trialed, and just how people are basically going to engage with the winter games next week. Got any answers I'm going to put into the chat? Okay, so so have we? If anyone has got any more feedback on the winter games, how they're going to do that, then we will move on. Whatever ideas for primary, obviously in the last and in the opening, obviously a lot of questions were around that outside activity and inside activity. Obviously, inside activity can take place, but you just try and limit the amount of people in a small space. So if you are working in your halls, your sports halls, or your main school hall, then it's just that ventilation part with doors open, windows open, etc. But if anyone's got any ideas or innovative ways that they've been dealing with the current wet that we've had, that'd be great if we could share any wet weather ideas.
I've got a few bits there, Neil.
Go for it, mate.
So we've got, as I said earlier, we're trying to do outdoor PE where possible, but obviously for some days that's really just not a viable option. So we've been using the hall where we need to. And to be honest, our hall isn't the biggest of halls. So we've teachers have been doing a lot of yoga in terms of following videos and things, but also what I've started doing with my class is more kind of like Invictus Games activities. So some more adapted activities, which maybe come from like disability sports or things like bocce and adapted games, where they're still doing things, but less of the running around and those high energy things that obviously are going to get the children out of breath and puffing out their germs everywhere.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because you've, like you say, you've got a very small hall for 300 kids in your school as well. Is that something that you've found some of those Invictus games online, or is that just something that you've kind of is a specific?
One of our with a scheme that we follow, one of the units provided is the Invictus game. So I've been directing teachers to that, but then I've been looking online as well, and there are loads of things out there that are kind of less traditional games. So a lot of them are kind of Paralympic games as well. And we've been incorporating things like blindfolds and stuff. So actually we've been playing like an adaptation of blind football and things like that, where it's more at walking pace.
Yeah.
And it's enabled us to cope better, as you said, with the lack of space. But also the kids are enjoying it because it's something different. And actually maybe this COVID thing has forced our hand a little bit, but we are starting to look outside the box and maybe do things a bit differently to how we would perceive to be normally do them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe it's a bit of a blessing in disguise almost.
And if you got any feedback, anyone, for anyone with, in terms of the virtual offer as well, and how we can make that so more people can take part, and that's what it's all about, is just, having something there that we can share to get more people involved and feel like they're part of something as well by competing against these other schools. Which leads us on to the next part. So obviously we've touched upon schools delivering clubs and things, but very much how are people finding sort of embedding or getting other people on board with some of these virtual competitions? Have people got are people taking part next week in the winter school games? So with the winter school games, we've left it flexible, so schools don't have to take part in things on a certain day, because we very much know that people's PE time and all, as we said there earlier, like people in the chat have put, do PE only in the afternoon. Some of us only do it in the morning. It would be good. Any feedback with the virtual games?
Neil, I sent you an email earlier on about it's feeding back on me and I don't know. Can you hear the feedback or no?
Yeah, stop now.
Okay. I've emailed you earlier on to see whether Luke had registered, but he's just messaged me saying he has. I think our idea is to do year 7, 8 mainly in PE lessons, trying to get some things going in there. But I haven't looked in it at detail.
Say that again. Say that last bit again. I missed the last bit of that.
Just we're going to try and do it in PE lessons for year 7, year 8. But I haven't looked at it in detail yet, so it'll be over the weekend. I'll be looking at that.
Oh.
Is that what most schools are going to be doing it in lesson time or as extracurricular? Obviously not extracurricular, but after school.
I think so. I think that's the way we try to promote it as well. Is to very much embed it into the school PE lessons and where that works, and maybe give people a different focus for that week. And I know, like you say, some people are limited on space and time, so hopefully that will give them something different, that knowing that taking part and competing against others. But yeah, very much most people I would have thought would be doing that in their PE lessons, or maybe even some of them might incorporate a little bit into sort of the tutor times there.
Okay, thanks.
So just reading sort of some of the things that are going into the chat. We tried to simplify the results this time round, Sophie. So hopefully, last time in the summer, obviously, because we knew that not everyone would be in school to take part. That's why some of it would come from parents, because we didn't want people at home who weren't key workers to take part and not be on the results. So hopefully this time, if one class teacher if that class takes part, in primary school or secondary, that one person just uploads that, and hopefully it should be quite straightforward on the forms. And this time you will have a PDF. If you haven't already received the email about the Winter Games, then please, email me after this and we can forward that to you. But there should be a PDF document where the examples are there for the sports, and the results links are on there. So it should all be hyperlinked, so you've got it all in one place, and hopefully that'll be straightforward to go through. And you can share that obviously with your other class teachers to go through that, but they should be able to upload those results straightforwardly themselves. But yeah, if people do find other games and formats and things that they find useful, or if there's anything that they want to include in some virtual offer, then please email them in to us and we can sort of take that on board. And anything that if anything's more like complicated in how we upload the results, or if you want something something's a bit of a challenge, then please let us know and we can sort of adapt to that. Like I say, we're always trying to adapt as we go, and obviously the Summer Games was the first time we did any virtual offer to such large scale, so hopefully this Winter Games will be a bit more straightforward for the primary and secondary schools with that. If anyone's got any more questions before we go, and we can have a bit of an early lunch, and we'll finish sort of 10 minutes early, but if anyone's got anything else, questions, or any secondary want to ask any primary school questions, or vice versa, any of the primary set-in want to ask any of the secondary school any questions, please let me know.
Neil, I just wanted to touch on what Dan was talking about the transition from primary to secondary. I'm not sure whether, Matt, you do it for your feeder schools, but I think it'd be something that I'd quite like to get going at Humphrey Davy, so that when we have these kids in year 7, we're fully aware of all the kids who are playing sport outside of school, actively involved in maybe swimming, just some of the sports that we might not necessarily know about. We don't always get that information when they come up. I would be really, really keen to start that, because it will help us so much in year 7 when we are putting kids into the correct groups. I know this year has all been a bit of a mess, just trying to get them into different sets, particularly when we weren't doing our normal back to school 4 weeks in PE to start with. Is this something that primary schools are keen to do? You obviously know the kids so much better than we do when they come up to us, and if you've got a class of 30 kids and then we've got 100 year 7s, it's really hard to always know the individual talents.
It's definitely something we've discussed before at Heads of PE with obviously at Cape, Neil Gap obviously knowing pretty much all the pupils that come into his year group, so he knows how to, or he would have taught them at primary level when they've had a bit of a cluster outreach with that. But it very much depends, I guess, on it's something we can discuss at Heads of PE next time round as well, and maybe if that's something they would take forward, and we can get a few primary delegates together as well and see how that can complement, like you say, when they come up for that. But I know that obviously some schools set differently, so if you set yours in ability or mixed gender, or it depends how you group your children as they come up. How would you normally group yours, Sarah?
We normally do 4 lessons of different, like multi-skills, that type of thing, just to see them in different elements. Obviously, we've got some kids who are brilliant at gymnastics, but then are really poor at any invasion game. So we try to set them accordingly on an average. Then for the last 2 years, in year 7, year 8, we've had upper boys, upper girls, and then lower boys, lower girls. And then in the older years, we've got boys, girls, and then a mixed group. So it depends on how many we've got in the year group, but we either have 4 groups per population or 3 groups per population.
Okay, yeah. So I guess that's where it comes up. I know some schools, necessarily the sets and groupings, split. I know at Mounts Bay that it'd be, the year group would all be split anyway, so it kind of wouldn't affect. But definitely that transition area, and there's more to it than just the kids that come up, and it's those, especially this year, where we probably lack that transition even more so.
The Mounts Bay group by ability now?
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
In core PE, it's completely mixed, is it?
Yeah, at the lower level, boys, girls is separate. But yeah, I don't think they do.
It's a good question, Sarah's also, because schools get given quite a lot of information, obviously, about pastoral background. They get SATs. I know it didn't happen this year, but usually they get SATs. They get other academic data, but we get very, very little in terms of ability, interest, engagement in PE, and it would be really useful, actually. And I'm not suggesting this is a task entirely for primary colleagues to do, but perhaps something we could work on together. It would be very, very useful.
I think it's something that we need to work on with our transition lead as well, Matt. I think I'm going to be having that conversation with Tamsin when I get back, because, like you said, it'll be so useful, and actually to channel them to right from the word go. If we know they're doing sport outside of school, they often take so long to go to an after school club when it's on, because they're just nervous and they're year 7. But if we can target them almost straight away, then they've already got a foot in the door week 1, week 2.
Yeah. It would
At the
be
moment,
nice
as a primary teacher, I teach year 6 as well. So we sit down and have like lengthy conversations about all the kids with the secondary school that they're going to. So I don't think it would be too difficult to just incorporate this in the conversation. It's just ensuring that because it's a 3-person conversation, isn't it? Say I'm having a conversation with someone who's then having a conversation with you. But I sat down at the end of last year and spoke to transition leads for secondary schools and said, this kid so-and-so is a swimmer, he swims, he's a surf life saving. So I think it wouldn't be too difficult to just ensure that's incorporated into that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's happened in the past, but then I think at one stage when there was talking 10 years ago when the sports partnership was around, I think it happened a bit more. But then when only part of that information come in, if you only have half your year group, say you have 100 kids, and only 50 of them you have that information back from, then it's almost, unless you get 100% back or near 100%, then it's the only time that it'd be useful.
Yeah, also we do get some information from primary schools about their likes and dislikes. I mean, every boy likes football when we get our return from interest of football. And when it comes down to actually they don't like football at all, but I think they just, at that point in their primary school, they've been enjoying it.
Society says they should.
Yeah. So just I think it'd be, like you said, it's that conversation, isn't it? And that information being given correctly. It's that, like I said, I will speak to Tamsin from my end, and hopefully that's something we can have in place for September.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, guys, thank you very much for the interaction. If anyone does have any questions after this, it's not something we discussed on a county level or anything, or discussion from things that we've talked about and how it works in the other areas, then please just drop us an email after this. Thanks very much. And obviously,
Neil,
yes.
I did have another question. I'm happy for you to close the session, but it'd be good. I could just do the speaking to Sarah about just what we might do about partial closure and whether she's got any thoughts and ideas. I'm being asked to come up with plans. And
I'd love nothing more, Matt.
Matt, you're welcome to discuss that now. It might be useful for primary delegates as well to listen to,
But the challenge that we might be facing is that I can see a point where either one whole year group or multiple whole year groups go home again, but staff are still in school. And my head today asked me if I'd considered what the plan was from a PE perspective about how we go about delivering PE with teachers being in school but students being at home.
Did you say no? That's your job.
I said I'll ask Sarah at Humphrey Davy. I'm sure she'll have a brilliant idea.
Oh God.
But it's the do you go back and start using all of the YouTube clips and activity at home ideas that you did before? Do we try to set up live video links? I raised the issue that when we did it before, we set up lots of stuff for the students to do. I still don't know how well they engaged with it, And also it was decent weather, so anyone with a garden or a patch of grass outside could actually get outside and do some of the challenges that we set for them. But if we start to have, you know, wet, windy weather, I'm beginning to really struggle with my creativity about how we might deliver a lesson with a live teacher in school, but the students being in their own home. And I don't know if anyone had already done some thinking and planning around that.
No. No, but now you've got me thinking, so that's good.
I know they have it in school, and that is an option, and Teams. So the pupils with the school login are on Teams, but they can write in the chat, but they can't sort of be live on video or something like that. So they can't sort of talk over the teacher whilst it's on there. So I think they can put stuff in the chat and that's it. But I don't know if it's being used yet or how much or.
Yeah.
We've activated our classes a couple of weeks ago now, so we've practiced it with our theory groups. I think the difference from this year to last year, last time is that we've now got Teams. We didn't have Teams in the first lockdown, so we didn't have that as a tool. I know they weren't. Our school wasn't really happy with us doing any sort of live videos. Whether that changes this time around, I don't know. But I guess we can't force those kids to do anything when they're at home. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it. We're always going to have the keen ones who are going to want to do some sort of physical activity. And if we can just get maybe one or two who might not normally move, that is a bonus. But with physical activity, it seemed like that is actually a positive thing in lockdown. People are wanting to go outside. Children are wanting to do stuff rather than sitting at the desk and trying to complete work. So maybe we're almost one step ahead of the game here, just because I don't want to necessarily sit down and do work.
No. And we use Google Classroom as our portal, and certainly for exam groups, we've already trialled doing like little mini tutorials at the end of last lockdown, so we could see the students face to face, and we can mute them and turn their cameras off and things like that. So I think what will happen is for exam classes, we will deliver in front of a laptop and share screens like we're doing today.
Yeah, we'll do similar.
And deliver a lesson, and hopefully students will have the IT now and they'll engage and they'll take part in those. Core PE is a different question, but I wonder whether we would get a greater level of engagement if they saw their own teacher delivering a lesson, at school, rather than being told to go and watch Joe Wicks or some other YouTuber.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps it would be worthwhile getting together. I'll discuss this with my lot, but almost like a booklet that they get to choose from. So they've got options to do something out on a bike, options to do a fitness-based activity, option to do a yoga-based activity, a skill-based activity. So they can almost pick and choose, like a bit of a menu, what they would like to do. But again, we can't force them to do that. We don't know whether they're going to be engaging in that unless we're seeing it or having some sort of evidence. But at least then you've got options to do, and you're not thinking on your feet every week or every lesson, what am I going to do? If it's something that's almost pre-prepared, you can say, well, we've got this ready to go, let's trial it. But like you said, Matt, and it is maybe something that we need to get sorted now rather than later. Yeah, so I'm really glad you asked me.
Well, it caught me slightly on the hop, and it's good. Fair to him, and he was like, what do we do if year 10 get sent home tomorrow? How are you going to do PE? So it was, I've put it straight on my faculty agenda for Tuesday.
Along with everything else that we need to do at the moment.
Oh, gee. I don't know about you. I find myself busy. I'm nervous about a point where we do clubs and fixtures again, because I don't know how I'm going to fit it all in. I am so busy at the moment that when life goes back to normal, I haven't actually got the capacity to do it. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that was my only question, Neil. Thanks for.
No, brilliant. And we'll try and share that in a forum, and like we say, the transition thing we can look at and see how other areas do that, and then maybe get a few primary delegates, and I'll email out to everyone to maybe if somebody can come on board.
Yeah, and if you could ask Dan what Penryn do, that'd be great.
I will do. And hopefully you can share something if they get the information sheets that they send out. Maybe they can share that to us, and we can look through that. And then hopefully after this we can also share if there's certain ways that people, like you just said, Matt, are going to teach PE at home, or how Veely's maybe planned that for Mounts Bay if he has. Or
he definitely hasn't.
I know. Planned it, but they might have to have something there. But obviously it's a bit different with us with iPads and things like that, and Seesaw and the platforms that the kids use. So they have a platform called Firefly, so all their lessons are on there anyway. So if they're in school or out, so that it is there of what they have to do. But yeah. So thank you very much, guys. Lunchtime now, obviously. Hope you all have a good lunch, something exciting. Next session is at 1 o'clock. You would have been sent the link for that. If you can't find the link, then let us know and we can send it across to you again. But it should be in your emails from Lewis Sanders. And if not, it's also on the agenda that was sent out for it as well. So all the links are on there. Okay, so have a good lunch, guys, and thank you very much for the interaction in the workshop.
Thanks, Neil. Nice to see you, everyone.
Cheers, Neil. Bye.
Neil, are you still there?
I'm still here, mate. Yep.
I just had one quick question about bikeability.
Yes.
Now Carol's left, is the chap who's doing it still on the same email address as Carol was?